This is Lemmy with RevZilla, here to talk to you today about riding in a pack. So let's face one of those harsh realities of motorcycling. You will probably be caught riding with other motorcyclists unless you are the most antisocial human being on the face of the planet. So if you have to ride with a pack, whether you like it or you don't like it, at least do me a favor and try and be good at it. Here's a couple tips that I've developed over the years that I've picked up from others and that I've sort of figured out myself. They might help you as well. Now remember, this list I'm going to give you is not exhaustive. This is not comprehensive. These are just a few of the big things I see people biff up and make their rides bad and make the rides of other people bad. First tip, prep your motorcycle. You need to make sure you have a motorcycle that is in good working order. The first and most important thing is make sure you have a tail light and a brake light that function correctly. If for some reason you break this rule and you show up to a ride without a functioning brake light or tail light, expect to be stuffed in the middle of the pack. And the reason is you will not be hassled by law enforcement if you are surrounded by motorcycles that all appear to be legal. Another thing that's important to mention too is that you probably need to take care of repair on the road, but not maintenance. If you happen to have a flat and you have to stop and the whole group waits for you to repair your flat, they should be cool with that. That's just part of life on the road. However, if you're kind of breaking down and you realize all of a sudden that maybe your points were misadjusted or you had to adjust your push rods or maybe you needed a fresh set of spark plugs, that's not cool because you could have done that stuff before you left home, maybe the night before your ride. You need to obviously respect your own time, but you need to respect the time of the people around you. Making sure that your bike is in top tune is a good part of that. The next item is roll at the right speed. You need to be moving correctly. Not everybody wants to ride at the same speed. Different people have different opinions, different bikes and different riders have different abilities. So your best bet right off the bat is to try and hook up with some people who want to ride a similar ride to what you're accustomed to. So if you're a faster rider, do me a favor, slow down. Wait for some of the slower riders. Don't pressure them into riding fast. Wait for them at turns to make sure that they can stay with the group. There's no first place podium at the end of it. Keep that in mind. If you're a slow rider, do me a favor. Do not wreck. That is your primary rule. If you want to slow everybody down big time, try and ride just a little bit too fast and then smear your bike and yourself all over the pavement and wait for the ambulance to arrive. Ride as fast as you responsibly can. However, don't ride above your abilities. Now, kind of related to this topic is being consistent. You need to be a consistent rider. You need to do stuff in a way that makes sense. Don't get throttle happy. Don't jam on the brakes. Don't be the rubber band rider who keeps causing big rifts in the pack. That's terrible. Nobody wants to ride near that rider. If people refer to you as hot dog often, you're probably the guy I'm talking about right now. Remember, slow is smooth and smooth is fast. If you want to see a good example of this, go check out your local hog ride. They may not be the fastest people out there, but they're usually very regimented and they're also usually taking their time to do things. They may also be riding in the left lane 10 under, but we'll talk about that in another video. Okay, the next tip is a fairly straightforward one. Be cognizant of the smallest tank and the slowest bike. Look, people drop off of groups for all sorts of silly reasons, but some of the not so silly reasons are that they ran out of fuel or they simply can't keep up. Now, when I say this, of course, I mean if somebody ran out of gas, that's obviously problematic. If you're in a group and you know that somebody has a small tank, make sure that your group is stopping appropriately for fuel for that rider. Now, in a related note here, you also want to pay attention to the person on the slowest bike. Doesn't matter what your rider skill and ability is, there are some times too when your bike just isn't capable of keeping up with the others. I'm thinking specifically of the times I've seen folks on, say, leader bikes run around with somebody who might be new, maybe they're on a 250 class bike, and they're just not going to be able to keep up. Having patient riders who actually stop really helps and lets that slower rider feel a little bit less stressed when they're on the road. Another thing you want to do when you're riding in a pack is gas up the bikes together. Now, depending on how flush you are and how large your group is, you can be that terrible, awful group that comes in and every single person swipes one credit card at a pump, ties up an entire gas station for every single car there simply because everybody's got to go buy $7 worth of fuel. Or you can do things the intelligent way. Hook up with 4 or 5 folks and agree to treat this like you were at the bar where everybody buys around. The other thing you can do too, if you're feeling particularly flush or you don't have a huge group, is one person can actually post up at the pump and gas all of the bikes with the understanding later that you guys will square up financially down the road. Another thing you can do too when you're riding in a pack is to not ride in a pack. You can actually split off and make your own pack. I do this fairly frequently. I don't like riding in a big pack. I've ridden with thousands of other bikes, but I don't like it. I don't know who any of these people are. I can't recognize most of them, and I have no idea if they're a decent rider or not. So what I usually do is split off with a much smaller group of my own with riders who like to ride the same way I do. It makes a lot of sense to sort of pair people up this way. It also allows you too, if you're new and you're just sort of trying out pack riding, to find other people who are riding similarly to you and sort of round yourselves up into a group that makes a little bit of sense. Now, if you're in a large pack, I would also recommend having a buddy. This is a pretty important tip. It seems to me psychologically, the larger a pack gets, the more comfortable people are with seeing people drop off, and the more comfortable people get with not counting and making sure everybody is still with them. So when a pack hits a certain size, or even if they don't, it can make a lot of sense if you have one person where you have a mutual agreement that no matter what happens, you're not going to continue forward without seeing your buddy. I think it makes people feel a little bit safer knowing that if they get lost or run out of gas, or perhaps they come off their bike, there's at least one person that they know no matter what has got their back. So that's gonna do it, I think, for tips as far as how to have a good ride when you're riding with lots of other motorcyclists. There's a jillion other things you can do to make your ride awesome when you're in a big pack. Feel free to dump a couple in the comments, any stuff that's worked for you. I think people will appreciate it. As always, I'm Lem, I'm out of here.